Well, good afternoon. The Right Honorable Mr. Edward Davey, British Cabinet Commissioner for Energy and Climate Change, the British Deputy High Commissioner Mr. Kumar Iyer, the delegates from UK's Department of Energy and Climate Change, faculty colleagues here on the dais and seated in front, students, ladies and gentlemen. It gives me immense pleasure to introduce Honorable Mr. Edward Davey, British Cabinet Minister. Just to introduce him, Mr. Davey is a Liberal Democrat MP for Kingston and Surbiton. He was educated at Nottingham High School and Jesus College, Oxford, where he studied politics, philosophy, and economics. He gained an MSc in economics from Birkbeck College, London University. After graduation, he worked as an economics researcher for the Liberal Democrats in Parliament. He was subsequently appointed as Secretary of State, which is Cabinet Minister as per the Indian political structure, in February 2012. Prior to that, he had served in the Liberal Democrat Shadow Cabinet in a number of posts, including Shadow Chief Secretary to the Treasury from 2001 to 2002, Shadow Secretary of State for Education and Skills from 2005 and to 2006, and Shadow Secretary of State for Foreign and Commonwealth Affairs between 2007 and 10. He was then Parliament Under Secretary of State for Employment Relations and Consumer Affairs at the Department of Business, Innovation and Skills from May 2010 to 2012, February 2012. I would like to bring to your attention that the Honourable Minister is going to dwell upon the topics of energy and climate change and Britain's position on post-2015 global climate deal. His address hopefully will also cover examples of UK-India partnership in the space of energy and climate change. While I don't want to stand between him and the audience, I would like in this context to briefly outline our own involvement in the area of energy and climate change. At the Institute, we have been actively engaged in the ongoing research in the field of energy and environment policy. The research at the Institute is carried out in close interaction with various ministries and of the Government of India, industry associations, and international organizations. For example, we are doing collaborative research projects with the Center for Environment Science and Policy at Stanford University and the Max Planck Institute located in Munich at Germany. International funding agencies have also supported our activities, including UNEP, Asia Pacific Network, and UNDP. One of the faculty colleagues who is seated on the dais, Professor Amit Garg and Professor P.R. Shukla, they have spearheaded our engagement, and they have contributed numerous articles, books, and international research reports, and they are a member of IPCC, which won the Nobel Prize in 2007. I think our faculty have been also actively involved in this area in terms of offering courses across different programs. Having outlined our own engagement in this field, and after introducing the Honourable Minister, let me now turn to him and request him to share his thoughts by delivering the keynote address. Thank you.
Esteemed professors, ladies and gentlemen, it's great to be here. I'm sorry I was a little late. The rain delayed us. It's like the UK. Can I thank Professor Pandey for those kind words? I'm really delighted to be here. This is my first trip to India and to Gujarat. But I can't begin to tell you how much I've wanted to visit your great country and this great state for many years, and not just to escape the current cricket test match series in England. Your country has touched me personally in so many ways over the years. From my Indian neighbours when I was young, growing up in Nottingham, the Malhotras. They were so kind to my brothers and me when we lost our mother. They used to bring us the best curries I've ever tasted. To my cousin Peter Lawton, who loves your country so much, he named his daughter India and helped set up the Ranthambore Tiger Reserve. I could take my whole speech just telling you how your country has touched my life even before I visited it. But I just wanted to say those few words to show the affection and the bonds between the UK and India that are personal, not just political. But of course, there are political bonds as well. And Gujarat matters to the UK politically. For in fact, the UK is home to 600,000 citizens of Gujarati origin. More importantly, I have voters in my constituency who consider themselves British Gujaratis. And if you have any relatives or friends living in Kingston and Surbiton in southwest London, we have an election next May. You know what to tell them. But seriously, the economic ties between the UK and the Gujarat are close. The Gujarat is a driver of growth in India, with your entrepreneurship, your excellence across so many countless fields. And the Gujaratis play a critical role in the UK economy. But above all, Gujarat matters to the UK because Gujarat matters to India. Gujarat is a driver of growth and prosperity, learning and culture for all India. And you must be proud that the new government in Delhi is publicly following the Gujarat model of growth. Those of you studying marketing will know Gujarat is now rightly selling this message to the world. Vibrant Gujarat has become a byword for attracting investment. It's a powerful symbol of the success of this state. The UK was delighted to be a country partner to the 2013 event, and we're looking forward again to partnering Vibrant Gujarat in 2015. And because Gujarat matters, I'm delighted that the UK will strengthen our relationship further with an agreement to open a Deputy High Commission here. A Deputy High Commission here will enable us to deepen and broaden the ties between the UK and Gujarat. It will help us to build on the thriving business links that drive growth here in the UK. It will enable us to build on the strong people-to-people links that enrich all our communities. For our vision of UK-India, UK-Gujarat, isn't just about a series of one-off transactions, important though individual projects might be. The vision is more powerful. It's about an enduring relationship, a relationship of families, friends, and firms growing together. And as Britain's climate change minister, it's fantastic to see the work that is going on here that the Professor talked about. The work developing cutting-edge, low-carbon, energy-efficient technologies. IIM Ahmedabad rightly has a growing reputation at the cutting edge of incubating new technologies. And it's been good to learn about your work, including the impressive Infuse collaboration supported by BP. So it's truly a delight to be here. But I am here today to talk about a very serious issue, about why tackling climate change matters. And to try to bust a myth, the myth that tackling climate change will harm economic growth. I'm here to talk about why changing economics are turning action on climate change from a cost to bear into a driver of growth. Why India's impressive action on renewables and energy efficiency is so important. And why a global climate deal next year is important for us all. Friends, climate change is one of the defining challenges of our time. And my bold proposition to you today is this: no one should study management or business without understanding climate change. Why such a bold statement? Well, first of all, the science is proven. Climate change is real now. Indeed, the danger to our economies and societies from climate change is growing. The results are evident in the changing patterns around us. Floods and droughts, more extreme weather events, desertification, sea levels rising. Just today I've talked to some senior government officials who worry that climate change may be changing the pattern of monsoons. This cumulative scientific evidence, our experience, reinforces the need for early action. In the UK, in India, and around the world, to address the significant risk that climate change will worsen and its damaging impacts accelerate. Damaging impacts for our societies, our economies, damaging impacts for commerce and investment if we don't act. We cannot afford to wait. A recent report in the United States called Risky Business made this absolutely crystal clear. Yet, as a politician, I'm also clear that action on climate change won't be easy. Action for any change is never easy. So politicians have to gain support for those changes from across society. We have to demonstrate that climate change action provides jobs and growth just as powerfully, in fact, more so than the old model of economic growth. And that is what I want to talk about today. I want to challenge the assumption that we, or India, need to choose between the environment on the one hand and growth and development on the other. That is a false choice. We need both, and we can have both. This city, Ahmedabad, is demonstrating the way forward. An industrial trading hub, one of the fastest growing cities in India, and from being the third most polluted city in India in 2005, this city is now receiving environmental awards for sustainable transport, urban planning, and waste management. And has cutting pollution and increasing renewable energy harmed this city? Absolutely not. GDP has been growing at an average of over 10% per annum in the last few years, an incredible track record, a track record of green growth. Likewise in the UK, we are moving to a green economy, albeit not quite at your growth rates. In the UK, we have set ourselves on the path of reducing damaging greenhouse gas emissions by 80% by 2050. This week I confirmed to the House of Commons in London our fourth carbon budget, which controls our carbon emissions between 2023 and 2027. By the end of that budget, carbon emissions compared to 1990 levels have to be down by 50%. That is a legal obligation on the British government. These climate targets, these carbon budgets, come from our 2008 Climate Change Act. That climate law, a world first, provides the legal underpinning for an intergenerational effort needed over the next 4 decades. The law provides a clear signal to our business community and to our investors too. We will decarbonise. And by setting that signal, we will cut the costs of decarbonising and we will drive innovation and technology. Indeed, the UK is now pushing for higher ambition across the European Union too. We are pushing the EU to agree to a 40% cut in 1990 emissions by 2030, and to increase this to a 50% cut if there's an ambitious global deal on climate change next year. In Europe last year, I established a group of ministers, and we called ourselves the Green Growth Group. Ministers from Germany, France, Italy, Spain, in fact from 15 EU countries. Together we're all making the case for growth-friendly climate policy. Europe has now developed some sophisticated economic instruments for encouraging low-cost, low-carbon growth, from product standards to cap-and-trade systems, from CO2 targets to renewable energy targets. But it's not just Europe that is embracing green growth. Global clean energy investments have grown 6-fold since 2004 to nearly $195 billion a year. China will have invested over $1.2 trillion in its green economy between 2011 and 2015. And America. The US is securing record sums in clean energy and recently became the world's largest investor in low-carbon energy research and development. Now, for the planet, this is truly encouraging. And it suggests that China and the US, the world's 2 largest polluters, have a growing stake in a low-carbon future. So my argument to you is this. None of us can afford to be left behind in this global low-carbon revolution. Future growth will be low carbon. Modern economic policies must be sustainable economic policies. And so to this great country. There is no doubt in my mind that India is a crucial part of solving the global climate change challenge, and will itself benefit from playing an active role in that challenge. Already energy hungry, India's energy demand is expected to more than double over the next 25 years. Now that's daunting. So where will all that energy come from? India already imports around 80% of its oil, imports 20% of its gas, and 20% of its coal. India's annual energy import bill is around 120 billion US dollars. And this could jump to 230 billion US dollars by 2023, according to Goldman Sachs. This creates enormous energy security challenges and economic challenges too. Prices of oil and gas remain high and volatile. That strains budgets for energy investors, consumes foreign exchanges, creates volatility on the exchanges. It takes funds that are needed to invest in infrastructure and growth, to back the development that India rightly seeks. So it seems to me that in India, as in the UK, investments in the low-carbon economy are important investments, not just for tackling climate change or stimulating green growth, but also for national energy security too. Indeed, that's what the models of the future are telling us. Even more significant, the 2047 India energy security scenarios developed by India's Planning Commission with UK support shows that scenarios for maximum energy security and minimum carbon emissions almost converge. National energy security and global climate security are becoming one and the same for India. The models show that through following a low-carbon pathway, fossil fuel import dependence could be reduced to between 25 to 30% by 2047, as opposed to over 60% under business as usual. And by reducing import dependence, India would save billions. Now let's be frank, some low-carbon technologies are, or at least have been, expensive. But a major feature of the changing economics of climate is the rapid reduction in the costs of key green technologies. In India itself, the costs for solar have come down by almost 60% in the last 5 years, making it competitive or near competitive with new coal-based generation. Costs of energy storage have declined by 30% globally. Electric vehicle costs have decreased by around 50%. Highly energy-efficient appliances, like the latest models of fridges or TVs, can now be competitive on capital terms with the old, inefficient, polluting appliances. And the new clean technologies on the horizon show every sign of following the same path of cost reduction. Carbon capture and storage, smart grids, intelligent traffic management systems, new energy-efficient manufacturing processes. Innovation will be key. That's why the UK and India have a rapidly growing research collaboration with over £150 million of joint-funded, high-quality research in key areas such as solar energy, smart grids, and energy storage. And these changing economics, they're having a profound effect, profound consequences already on energy policy, and they will have dramatic ones in the years ahead. But these effects are still not widely and sufficiently understood. In parts of the UK, the debate in this area still has people denying the evidence. In the UK, we still need to bust the myth, to show how tackling climate change need not be at odds with growth, how policies to address climate change are a necessary component in a truly sustainable, inclusive economy. And I suspect the same debate rages here. But, colleagues, we cannot galvanize action on climate change or energy security unless we win this argument. And as India knows better than many other countries, development, growth, and poverty reduction must be part of the energy and climate change solution. And this solution need not cost the earth. As far back as 2006, the Stern Review demonstrated how the benefits of strong early action on climate change far outweigh the costs of not acting. More recently, this April, India's own expert group on low-carbon strategies concluded that a low-carbon growth pathway for India would cost just 0.1% of economic growth, before one factored in the co-benefits of a low-carbon economy. And these co-benefits can be huge. The World Bank has estimated that poor air quality alone in urban areas is costing India a massive 1.7% of GDP. With these sorts of co-benefits of climate change action, moving to a low-carbon economy will clearly enhance India's economic development, not constrain it. In fact, most of the low-carbon measures suggested by India's expert group are precisely those that successive Indian governments have seen as drivers of growth. Dedicated freight corridors, building power generation capacity through more efficient thermal power and new renewables, driving energy efficiency, managing urbanization. India is taking impressive action on renewables and energy efficiency. India's renewable capacity has grown to almost 30 gigawatts and is set to double during the 12th five-year plan period. India's industrial energy efficiency policy, the Perform, Achieve, Trade scheme, is the first of its kind among the developing countries. India's cement, steel, and textile companies are some of the most energy efficient in the world. The recent Indian budget includes several impressive measures to enhance energy security and boost renewable energy. Support for ultra-mega solar projects, support for solar panels on the banks of canals, support for power sector reform. On these measures, the leadership shown by Gujarat has been crucial. This state is in the vanguard of wind and solar deployment and has been successful in reducing financial losses in the power sector too. I think this huge progress, though, will gather momentum. For this revolution in climate economics is being recognized by companies around the world, by investors around the world. Far-sighted companies are adopting low-carbon technologies, not simply to appeal to environment-conscious consumers, but because efficient resource use is a driver of competitiveness. Some of India's biggest companies, including the IT sector giants, manufacturers, and even hotels, they've recognized the benefits of a low-carbon, energy-efficient business model. And they're using this to attract investors and to attract clients. And here on this, in IIM Ahmedabad, I know I'm talking to the right people, to the future entrepreneurs, to the business leaders of tomorrow. And let me reassure you, though, UK companies are doing their bit too. Take Marks and Spencer's. Their so-called Plan A has driven energy efficiency across their retail stores, cut waste, and improve the sustainability of raw materials. Plan A has delivered £70 million of benefits to the company in 1 year alone. And those are benefits that can be shared. In India, the company's Better Cotton initiative is helping to improve the lives of 20,000 farmers. Take Unilever. Hindustan Unilever already source 48% of their agricultural raw material sustainably, and they've now committed to halving the life cycle greenhouse gas impact of their products by 2020. Indeed, UK-India collaboration on climate change and energy is really thriving. The UK is the biggest foreign investor in India's energy sector. British oil and gas majors are bringing in crucial technology to enhance domestic production and improve efficiency. Other collaboration is helping to tackle the causes and impacts of climate change and enhance India's growth and India's energy security. On renewables, we are working together to put in place the policy and institutional framework for offshore wind, helping states develop solar rooftop policies, and testing business models for off-grid clean energy. In the power sector, the UK and Indian governments are working together on reform to develop stronger, more efficient electricity markets that will incentivize uptake of renewables and energy efficiency. And in states and cities, we are working together to plan better, to tackle climate change and its impacts, for example, by designing better urban transport. And more broadly, the UK is open for business with India. Trade and investment is growing between our countries. Last year, 9 out of 10 Indians who applied for a UK visa were successful. India is UK's biggest visa operation in the world. And I'd like to take this opportunity to make one point crystal clear. There is no cap on the number of students from India that can come to the UK. We continue to attract brilliant students from India and other countries to study in the UK. We are, after all, home to 4 of the top 10 universities in the world. And those who can get a graduate job can stay to work after their studies. And we want a two-way exchange. The British Council Study India programme has provided the opportunity for over 1,000 UK students to study and work in India. And we hope to significantly increase the number of UK students studying in the best Indian institutions, just like this one. But the fact is, despite all this fantastic cooperation, innovation and creativity, we are not making fast enough progress to reduce emissions and keep global temperature limits within a safe level. Climate change is a global problem, and a global agreement is needed to underpin action around the world. No one country can do this alone. The problem with the climate change talks is after the climate summit in Copenhagen in 2009, many people started questioning whether a global deal would ever be possible. Well, I'm here to tell you that I believe it is, and I believe we can do it over the next 18 months. Why am I so optimistic? Well, first of all, the world agreed in Durban in 2011 that we would work towards a global, legally binding agreement on climate change in Paris in 2015. And the second reason why I'm so optimistic is following that commitment, we've seen real progress at the recent climate change summits, at the annual climate change summits, and we've seen movement in the United States. We've seen movement in Europe, and we've seen movement in China and India. So I believe there will be a global deal on climate change next year, but it must be a fair deal. So what is fair? Well, first, a fair climate change deal is one which all countries take on emission reduction commitments. Every country needs to do something. But second, and this is crucial, these commitments should reflect the contribution countries have made and will make to the climate change problem. And the commitments should also reflect their true capacity to act. So yes, a deal should take account of past emissions, but it must also be set in the real world, where we stand now and where we look out to the future. It should include a genuine consideration of what countries are capable of based on mitigation potential, GDP per capita, and poverty levels. Countries have vastly different national circumstances, and countries should reflect this in their commitments and explain why their offer is fair. That is how we can ensure that the deal is fair and equitable. But we also need an ambitious deal, in which all countries put their best foot forward and commit to real and lasting emission reduction targets, in the confidence that their neighbours and their trading partners will do the same. We recognise the imperative for economic growth, for poverty reduction, but as I've argued, this is not an either-or situation. Action on climate change is vital both for economic growth and poverty reduction. We can have both, and we must have both. The UK wants to see an agreement that is equitable and supports growth, a deal that enables India to increase its energy security, tackle climate change, and complete the task of eliminating poverty. Emission reductions should be at the core, though for some countries, including India, emissions must inevitably increase in the short term due to development before slowing, peaking, and falling in the medium term. Of course, the question is how to do this. How practically do we refocus investment? How do we fund this all? And that brings me to my last topic, climate finance. For climate finance will be critical if we are to go green. The UK is actively deploying its own climate finance to support low-carbon development globally, and we're encouraging others to do their bit. The UK's £3.9 billion International Climate Fund is helping developing countries like India to reduce emissions and adapt to the impacts of climate change. Much of our work is through multilateral funds. Indeed, we want to see the Green Climate Fund capitalised by the end of 2014. And we are developing private climate finance funds, so we mobilise the tens of billions the fair global action needs. The UK is completely committed to playing our part in raising the promised $100 billion by 2020, and we have matched our words with cash and with action. So to conclude, ladies and gentlemen, the climate is changing, but so are the economics and the benefits of climate action. I firmly believe that action to tackle climate change can make us more energy secure, can give us cleaner, healthier air. Climate action means scarce government resources and foreign exchange can be focused on investments, not on purchasing ever more energy from overseas. So it can drive growth and drive development. Friends, we can and we must deliver growth and cut emissions. We can and we must agree a fair and equitable global deal next year in Paris. And friends, whether you are teachers or students, please, you can, and dare I say it, you must play your part. The future needs your help now. Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Minister, for sharing your immense thoughts with us on this very important topic. On a lighter vein, we have a course called Carbon Finance here, and I pray the success of these talks next year. Otherwise, the course has to be closed down, maybe. So we are watching. Anyway, so now the floor is open for question and answers. Yeah? Yes, please.
Good evening, Honourable Minister. My question to you is regarding shale gas exploration in the UK. How do you think UK is going to go ahead with shale gas exploration? Is it going to go ahead in a big way? If yes, how do you propose to tackle the environmental concerns surrounding shale gas exploration? And the second part of the question is, shale gas exploration has affected the prices of gas in a big way in the US. Do you see the same trend in the UK if you go ahead with this exploration?
Well, thank you. Thank you for that question. Shale gas is something we are working very hard on in the UK, both to ensure that there isn't the environmental damage that some people fear from shale gas exploration production, but also to see whether we will be able to produce shale gas. There's been a lot of geological studies suggesting that we do have shale basins in several parts of the United Kingdom, but we haven't had many exploratory drilling. So the truth is we do not know the size of the shale gas opportunity in the United Kingdom. But we are working hard with industry to try to answer that question. If you were to push me to the wall and say, what do I think will be the result? I think we will have a lot of shale gas. It won't be as much as the gas that we had in the North Sea, which we've been enjoying for several decades now, and we still produce a lot of gas from the North Sea. But it will be important because at the moment, we see gas as part of our way of tackling climate change. We still burn a lot of coal for our electricity. And over the next 10 years, we aim to phase out coal that doesn't use carbon capture and storage completely. And that leaves a gap. And that gap has to be filled by, yes, renewables, yes, nuclear, yes, energy efficiency, but also by gas, because that's hugely cleaner than coal. And our gas supplies, as North Sea production does fall over time, means we're having to import more and more gas, including from around the world. And if you compare the climate impact of gas on a ship from Qatar, from gas produced in the UK onshore from shale reserves, it's obvious the climate impact of shale gas is less, and it would displace more climate damaging gas. But we're making sure that if the shale gas revolution hits the UK, that we've got the regulations in place to deal with 3 or 4 environmental concerns that there are, whether it's water sustainability, whether it's the water table, or whether it's things like methane emissions. That's a really big issue which some countries haven't tackled, but we are determined to tackle even before we really start the exploration phase. So I think you can exploit shale gas in an environmental way. Will it be this dream silver bullet which will deliver low prices for gas in the way we've seen in America? I rather think not. A lot of the studies suggest that we can't replicate the United States experience. They have a closed economy in many ways for gas markets, and also they're producing a lot of shale oil at the same time as shale gas. There's lots of reasons why we won't be able to replicate that. The sheer volumes, I think, will be much, much less. But nevertheless, it's still important. It's important for our energy security. It's important for our climate change action. And we are working in the UK and around the world to make sure shale gas can play its part in tackling climate change.
I think we are running late, so I'll allow 2 more questions. You want something? Yeah.
Good evening, sir. My name is Harish from PGPX. My question is on the new climate policy. The new climate policy is likely to be in place by about end of 2015. So there has been a lot of debate between the developed countries and developing countries on capitalizing this fund and operationalization. So how do you, what is your view on this, and what do you think about mitigating this challenge? The new climate policy, which is
nuclear energy.
The new climate policy.
New climate
policy.
Okay. Well, I think the new climate policy that we are engaged in is something that we think can really help energy security and energy policy more broadly. And we're involved in a new climate economy study. A number of countries have been involved in commissioning that work to look at, as we move to more climate-friendly energy policies, what will be the impacts. And although the work isn't yet finished and isn't published, we know the direction of travel that the researchers have found. And interestingly, they found that just by operating sensible economic policies in the energy sector and indeed other sectors like transport, you can solve most of the climate change policies just by sensible policies that you ought to follow even if climate change didn't exist. So I find that very encouraging, that taking the right policies, phasing out fossil fuel subsidies, for example, taking the sensible policies actually get you most of the way there to tackling climate change. That's why I think we shouldn't be afraid of this challenge. It's actually something that if we face up to, I think we can turn into a huge opportunity.
I think one last question, if anybody. Yeah? No, one at the... Yeah, very quickly, please, very quickly. Yeah, please go ahead.
Go ahead. Okay.
Go ahead.
Good evening, sir. My name is Vinay. I'm from the PGPX batch. In your speech, you touched a bit upon what UK government is doing to tie up with India and the investments in the renewable area. I would like to, if you can add more on to what initiatives you are taking to partner and send investors and developer from UK to work in India and work with on renewable area, renewable energy. Thank you.
Well, thank you for that question. It relates to what I was saying at the end, the climate finance, the private climate finance and public climate finance. I think that's going to be a critical way for the UK to help countries like India develop their growing renewable energy industry. So, for example, we've invested £130 million, that's $200 million US dollars of public money to catalyse equity investment in renewable energy and energy efficiency through what's called the CP3 programme for developing countries, and India's had involvement of that. And we've done a lot of work in the Clean Development Mechanism, which I'm sure you're aware of. It's the international mechanism, and that already has delivered millions of dollars to India, and approaching half of that have actually come to the Gujarat. And one of the huge advantages, if we can get a climate change deal, is that it would actually bring over 15 billion US dollars of benefits to India through the mechanisms like the Clean Development Mechanism. So these are the things, if we get the policies right at the global level, that will help the UK and other countries support the renewable sector here in India.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. I understand there are many pressing questions, but maybe we are running on time. Late in time, and then maybe I'll request if you can send these questions electronically. Maybe I'll request the High Commission to maybe respond through the minister. Now I'll request on behalf of the Institute, Professor Pandey, to please present a small memento of as an appreciation of this thing.
Thank you very much.
And I'll request Mr. Iyer to convey his vote of thanks. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Garg. It is genuinely a real honor to be hosted by you here today. My first experience of IIM students was as a student, a postgraduate student at Cambridge. And I had two people in my class who were former IIM students. And they were by far and away the smartest kids in the class. So I am under no doubt of the intellectual firepower that is here in this room, and the even greater firepower in the faculty that must be teaching the firepower that is in this room. So it is a real pleasure and an honor to be here today. I would very much like to thank, of course, Professor Pandey, Professor Amit Garg, Professor Ahuja, Professor Anil Gupta, and of course, Professor N.M. Patel, the rest of the faculty, all of the students here, and of course the entire batch of PGPX 2014-15. On behalf of the Secretary of State, on behalf of the British High Commission here in India, thank you very much. Thank you.